Dear learners, today we will be discussing another offense related to marriage under Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which is section 81, cohabitation caused by man deceitfully inducing belief of lawful marriage. This offense was earlier provided under section 493 of Indian Penal Code 1860. Although this section is relatively shorter, but understanding the provisions of this section is crucial as it protects individuals, particularly women, from fraudulent marriages and highlights the importance of legal certainty in marital relationships. Let's now examine the key elements, legal implications, and relevant case laws associated with section 81 to grasp its significance fully. First, let's look at the language of this section. Every man who by deceit causes any woman who is not lawfully married to him to believe that she is lawfully married to him and to cohabit or have sexual intercourse with him in that belief shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 10 years and shall also be liable to fine. We shall take up the key elements of this provision one by one. The first essential ingredient of this offense is that the accused could either be a married or an unmarried man. The law does not restrict the offense to only unmarried men, and a married man who deceives a woman into believing she is his lawful wife can also be held liable under this provision. The second essential ingredient is that the man must have deceitfully induced a belief in the woman. The second essential ingredient is that the man must have deceitfully induced a belief in the woman that they are lawfully married. Deceitful inducement implies that the man has made a false representation or promise to the woman which has led her to believe that they are married. This can take many forms such as false promise of marriage, a fake marriage ceremony, or misrepresentation of his marital status. Third essential ingredient is the belief of lawful marriage. It means that the woman must have believed that she has entered into a valid marriage with the man. This means that the woman should genuinely believe that she is married to the man and the marriage is valid and lawful. The law requires that the woman's belief should be genuine and reasonable given the circumstances specific to each case. Fourth essential ingredient is that the woman should have submitted herself to the man for cohabitation or sexual intercourse based on the false belief that they are married. This means that the women should have engaged in a marital relationship with the man, including cohabitation as a result of the deceitful inducement. Fifth essential ingredient is that there should be no valid marriage between the man and the woman. This means that the marriage should be either void or not solemnized according to law. In other words, the law requires that there should be no legally recognized marriage between the parties. And the sixth and final essential ingredient relates to the intent of the accused. It means that the man should have intended to deceive the women regarding the validity of their marital status. This means that the man should have knowingly and intentionally misrepresented his marital status. This means that the man should have knowingly and intentionally misrepresented his marital status or the validity of the marriage to the woman. If these essential ingredients are satisfied, then a man can be held liable under this section and the offender may be sentenced to imprisonment of either description, that is, could be a simple or rigorous imprisonment for a term which may extend up to 10 years. Use of the term may extend gives the court discretion to decide the appropriate duration of the sentence based on the gravity of the offense, the circumstances of the case, and other relevant factors. In addition to imprisonment, the court also has the authority. In addition to imprisonment, the court also has the authority to impose fine on the convicted individual. The amount of the fine is at the discretion of the court and is typically determined considering the facts and the circumstances of the case. Now we will move on to the relevant case laws pertaining to this section, which will help us shape the understanding and application of this provision. One of the landmark cases in this context is Ramchandra Bhagat versus State of Jharkhand, where the Supreme Court of India laid down key principles regarding the offense of deceitful cohabitation by falsely inducing a belief of lawful marriage. In this case, the appellant Ramchandra Bhagat had developed an intimate relationship with the complainant, leading her to believe that they were lawfully married. The complainant cohabited with him for 9 years, bore 2 children, and was later turned out of the house. The court held that the appellant's action constituted deceit, as he had intentionally misled the complainant into altering her status from unmarried to married. Now, what were the key findings of the court in this case? The first is that the essence of this offense under section 493 IPC, now section 81 of the BNS, is that the practice of deception by a man on a woman, as a consequence of which the woman is led to believe that she is lawfully married to him and is made to cohabit with him in that false belief. Second finding is that the absence of a valid Hindu marriage or statutory marriage does not preclude conviction under this section, as the law punishes the inducement of a belief in lawful marriage, not the fact of a formally valid marriage. Moving on to the another important case of Arun Singh versus State of UP. This is also a significant judgment that shed lights on the intricacies of section 81 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. First, let's have a look on the facts of the case. The complainant's daughter, Jyoti, was engaged to Arun Singh and a ring ceremony had taken place. During this period, he established a physical relationship with Jyoti, claiming she was already his wife as the marriage was almost finalized. However, it was later discovered that Arun Singh was arranging his marriage with another woman for a larger dowry. Now, the court emphasized that the essence of this offense under section 493 IPC is deceitful inducement of a belief of lawful marriage. However, the allegations against Arun Singh did not establish that he had deceived Jyoti into believing she was already lawfully married to him. Instead, the statements suggested that Jyoti was aware that the marriage was not yet complete but was induced on the pretext of a soon-to-be completed marriage. As a result, the court quashed the charge sheet against Arun Singh under section 493 IPC, noting that the essential ingredient of deceitfully inducing a belief of existing lawful marriage was missing. So, we can understand that deceit or inducement is a very essential ingredient. So, the key takeaway from this case is that for an offense under section 493 IPC, mere inducement to marry in the future isn't enough. The man must deceive the woman into believing she is already lawfully married to him. This judgment highlights the fine line courts draw in such cases, balancing the protection of women's rights with the legal requirements of the offense. Okay, so this brings us to the end of our discussion of section 81, where we learn that this section punishes a man for deceitfully inducing a woman to believe that she is lawfully married to him and then cohabiting with him. We also looked up the essential ingredients of this section in quite detail, including the requirement of a man deceiving and inducing a woman on the pretext of lawfully. We also looked up the essential ingredients of this section in quite detail, including the requirement of a man deceiving a woman on the pretext of a lawful on the pretext of lawful marriage and inducing her to cohabit with him. We also examined the punishment prescribed for the offense under this section, which includes imprisonment of either description for a term that may extend to 10 years and a fine. Additionally, we discussed some major relevant case laws, including the Ramchandra Bhagat case and the Arun Singh case, where we learned about the court's interpretation of the offense of deceit and the essential ingredients of this section. These cases highlight the importance of understanding the scope and application of section 81 and the nuances involved in applying this provision. With this, along with section 81 in today's lecture, we will also discuss section 84 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which talks about enticing or taking away or detaining with criminal intent a married woman. This offense was previously provided in section 498 of Indian Penal Code 1860. First, let's look at the language of this section. Section 84 says that whoever takes or entices away any woman who is and whom he knows or has reason to believe to be the wife of any other man, from that man or from any person having the care of her on behalf of that man, with intent that she may have illicit intercourse with any person, or conceals or detains with that intent any such woman, shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 2 years, or with fine, or both. So, in simple terms, we can understand that this section punishes a person who entices or takes away or detains a married woman with a criminal intent. The gist of the offense under this section consists in the deprivation of the husband of his custody over his wife with the object of having illicit relation with her. So this section acts as a protective shield for the husband, safeguarding his rights over his wife and protecting him from the deprivation of her custody with malicious intent. It should be noted that it is the husband alone who can institute prosecution for an offense of this nature. Moreover, under this section, only a married woman is the subject matter. Now we will take up and discuss the essential ingredients of this section one by one. Firstly, it is imperative that the subject in question is a married woman. The legal status of the woman as a wife is a precondition under this section. The term married woman inherently implies a legally recognized marital relationship with a male spouse. Therefore, if the woman is not legally married, this provision does not get attracted. Second essential element demands an active act on the part of the accused. This could be either enticement, where the accused persuades, induces, or allures the married women, or taking away, where the accused physically removes her from the lawful custody. It is crucial to understand that the mere presence of the accused near the women or a casual interaction does not suffice. There must be a deliberate effort, however subtle, aimed at encouraging her departure from her marital home or guardian's care. Thirdly, the provision stipulates that the married woman must be under the lawful care of her husband or a person authorized by him. This encapsulates the concept of guardianship inherent in a marital relationship. The care could be physical, where she resides with the husband, or legal, where a guardian is appointed with due authority. The key is that there exists a lawful basis for the husband or his delegate to have custodial rights over her. Any removal or inducement thus infringes upon this legally recognized custodial entitlement. The fourth ingredient pertains to the mens rea of the accused. The act of enticement or taking away must be accompanied by a specific intent to induce the woman to leave her husband or lawful guardian for an unlawful, illicit purpose, typically understood as intent for illicit intercourse or other immoral activities. It is noteworthy that the actual success of the illicit intent is not mandatory. The very presence of such intent coupled with the act is sufficient for the liability under this section. Lastly, the prosecution must establish that the aforementioned acts were carried out with the consent of the husband. Lastly, the prosecution must establish that the aforementioned acts were carried out without the consent of the husband or the lawful guardian. Consent here implies a voluntary, informed agreement. If the husband or authorized guardian has given permission for the woman's departure or association with the accused, the offense under this section collapses. However, courts rigorously examine whether the consent was genuine or obtained under duress, misrepresentation, or undue influence. In summation, we can say that to attract section 84 of BNS, there are 5 indispensable ingredients. First, the woman must be a legally married wife. First, the woman must be a legally wedded wife. Second, there should be an active act of enticement or taking away by the accused. Third, she must be under the lawful care of her husband or his authorized representative. Fourth, the accused must possess the requisite mens rea, intent to cause her departure or for illicit. Accused must possess the requisite mens rea, intent to cause her departure for illicit purposes. And fifth, the act must be executed without the consent of the lawful guardian or the husband of the said woman. Now let's focus on the punishment for this offense, which is imprisonment for a term which may extend to 2 years or fine or both. The court has discretion to impose either or both of these punishments considering the facts and the circumstances of the case. Now let's focus on the punishment for this offense, which is imprisonment for a term which may extend to 2 years or fine or both. Now let's focus on the punishment for this offense, which is imprisonment for a term which may extend to 2 years or fine or both. The court has discretion to impose either or both of these punishments considering the facts and the circumstances of the case. Now let's discuss a very important case related to this section, which is of Alamgir versus State of Bihar. The case, first let's go over the facts of this case. The case revolves around Rehmatiya, a married woman who went missing from her husband's house. She was later found at the appellant's residence, Alamgir, and his brother. When the husband, Saklu Mia, approached them and requested Rehmatiya's return, Alamgir claimed to have married her, and Alamgir's brother, Badruddin, threatened Saklu to leave. In this case, the Supreme Court undertook a textual and contextual analysis of Section 84 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. The court held that the primary objective of this section is to safeguard the husband's custody and control over his wife. An important takeaway here is that the wife's willingness to leave the marital home becomes immaterial if the accused conduct is such that it encourages or exploits that willingness. The court enumerated 3 ingredients under this section. First is taking, enticing, concealing, or detaining the wife away from her husband, knowledge of her marital status by the accused, and intent to engage the wife in illicit intercourse. Importantly, the term detains was interpreted by Importantly, the term detains under this section was interpreted broadly by the court. The court said it's not restricted to physical restraint alone, but it also encompasses keeping the wife away by persuasion, allurement, or blandishment. Keeping the wife away by persuasion, allurement, or blandishment. So, enticement can include physical force plus mental inducement by the accused. The judges reasoned that if detention were limited only to physical force, it would defeat the very purpose of this section. Now, applying the above interpretation to Alamgir's case, the court upheld Alamgir's conviction based on concurrent findings that he offered to marry Rehmatiya, thereby inducing or encouraging her to abandon her husband with the intent of illicit intercourse. In essence, Section 84 of BNS is a protective provision. So we can understand that in essence, Section 84 BNS is a protective provision for marital bonds, and the Supreme Court's broad interpretation ensures that not just physical force but any form of persuasion or inducement that leads a wife away from her husband with malicious intent can also be penalized under this section. And that brings us to the end of today's lecture on Section 84 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which corresponds to Section 498 of the Indian Penal Code. We explored the offense of enticing, taking away, or detaining a married woman with criminal intent and examined the essential ingredients of this provision. We also discussed the prescribed punishment for this offense. Additionally, we analyzed the landmark case of Alamgir versus State of Bihar, where the Supreme Court provided a broad interpretation of the terms enticed and detained, significantly expanding the scope of this section. In the coming lectures, we will explore more offenses related to marriage like cruelty and bigamy. With this, I conclude today's lecture. Thank you.